Hello, welcome back to Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, we're gonna do something really simple, basically to create like a simple flat fish that's kind of animated using sine wave. So let's just save it real quick. I'll call it flat fish, but so this is gonna be the simple one, but in the future I might modify it into something that's more like a real fish. So if we have like something like a line nodes and we are using offset line, we can actually create something that's kind of looking like a fish. Let's see real quick. So we have that, right? The line is kind of growing in X. I always think of it that way. And then I'm using random number. And by luck, if we have the right number of points, we're gonna get fish. I mean, if we have the right value. So I'm using like a random number here, but instead of random, you can also use script nodes. Let's see if I remember the name. Draw override complex. That's actually gonna give you this curve, some kind of like a ramp that you can adjust to make like a fish shape. If you want to use that, otherwise just use random number for now. So go to the top view. So this flat fish currently it's flat, right? But for a fish, we probably want to rotate this guy. So let's rotate. Rotations. Just rotate it in X, 90 degrees. And I think we are getting there. We just need to maybe just animate this guy now in the y-axis. So let's see how we can do this. If I'm not wrong, there is a formula deform by formula. You can use this, but I found it's simpler if we are using just vector out and vector in. It's totally up to you which one you want to use, because they are practically the same. You put in vertices, which is list of vertices, and then you give some kind of formula here, and the output is going to be the result. See, I just make this like 2 times original length. See, that's 3 times. That's the original length. You can always use this value y and z, and then you can also use time if you like, but I prefer to do it using nodes. So let's see. So we have the x, we have the y, and we have the z. Oh, this guy is back to flat. Now I rotate it. Now I want to move it in y. So I want to have a sine wave in y. How are we going to do that? Let's use a sine. But the sine is not plugged from the y. The sine is actually coming from the x, but it's gonna go into the y. Do you know why? Because the original y is actually 0. Because this the fish is aligned the x-axis, but the x itself is actually the value that's changing. Let me use the stethoscope to show you what I mean. So that's the x value. The y value itself is actually supposed to be 0. Anyhow, so we got this fish. We got a sine wave and something that's looking kind of like a flat fish. And the next thing we want to do, maybe just use a math and kind of offset the value from x and use a frame number, plug into that guy. Here we can use math multiplier for the time, so it's a bit slower. It's totally up to you. This fish a little bit long, but it's totally up to you. You can always change the number here. Right, that's kind of makes sense. Randomize. So that's kind of like a fish. Let's adjust that a little bit more. If you actually put a texture, it's gonna be a little bit more like a fish. If you want some thickness, you can just use solidify, although solidify is kind of doing it in just in one direction, but that's giving it a little bit more thickness. So now it's a bit like snake. So that's a fish, but basically if you want to actually use something else, you can, there's a skin mesher, which is basically skin modifier in Spreadshop. You can actually use this as well. So if we are using the vertices and the edges from, let me check, from the line, we should get something. Okay, that's because we are using this offset line. We don't actually need to use the offset line, but we're gonna need to use this formula. Let's try doing this real quick. Same. So I'm gonna select this wave. I could actually turn this into some kind of template because they're similar. I use this all the time. And so we have line. Line can go into this guy, and the output can go into this guy. So now we have a snake. That's because of the skin modifier. Let's see if I can adjust this. So this is more like a flat fish. I mean more like a snake, but let me try if I can flatten this guy. So now I'm flattening. Now it's looking more like an eel, and I can adjust the Y, so I can get something that looks like a fish. This random number goes into that guy. All right, so now that's looking much better, right? Like there. So a proper fish needs eyes and also, what do you call it, the fin at this. So that's gonna be the detail, but you get the idea. So basically using just a few simple math functions and this offset line, we can create like a very thin paper fish like that. I actually like it without the solidify, but it's totally up to you. I'll just make the thickness to 0. We don't need to solidify. It's much simpler. And then this guy is based on skin modifier. Skin modifier actually works in 2 axes. It's really, really powerful, but maybe many people didn't know. Here we go. That's a procedural fish, right? You can make it thicker, but I think thinner. For fish, you just want it thin. So now you can control the speed of the wave, right? Remember, you have two setup here. The one just coming from the line, the other one is going up there. So I can randomize the speed. Maybe with the sine wave, I can multiply it. So that's more like an eel, I guess. Make it longer. There you go. That's a little bit strange fish now, but keep it simple. There you go. That's a simple procedural fish. I'll try to make an eyeball for the fish at some point. Let's see how it goes, but this is the basic idea. Procedural basic flat fish. All right, so there you go. Hopefully this is useful. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.